I want you to think about something that almost nobody in the church ever talks about. Every major economic crisis in human history has left survivors. Not just people who survived, businesses that survived, models, frameworks, categories of economic activity that kept going when everything else collapsed, that kept feeding families when currencies failed, that kept employing people when industries evaporated. That kept mattering when the world reorganized itself around something entirely new. And here is what I find remarkable when I read the Bible carefully. The businesses that survived every biblical crisis, every famine, every conquest, every exile, every plague, every political collapse, were not random. They were not lucky. They shared specific characteristics. And those characteristics appear with striking consistency in the same categories of business across 3,000 years of human history. The businesses that survived the Egyptian famine are still surviving today. The businesses that operated through the Babylonian exile are still operating today. The models that Boaz ran in the fields of Bethlehem, that Lydia ran in the markets of Philippi, that the woman of Proverbs 31 operated from her household. Every single one of those categories is alive and functioning in the American economy right now. That is not a coincidence. That is evidence of a principle. And today I'm going to show you 9 of them. 9 business categories that have survived every crisis the Bible records, and why they will survive whatever comes next. Stay until the end because the 9th one is the most overlooked. And for the past several years, it has also been the fastest growing category of business in the American economy, largely driven by people who had no idea they were operating on a 3,000-year-old blueprint. There is one passage I need to establish before we go into the 9. Proverbs 27, 23, 24. Be sure you know the condition of your flocks. Give careful attention to your herds. For riches do not endure forever, and a crown is not secure for all generations. Know the condition of your flocks. Give careful attention to your herds. Solomon is not giving agricultural advice to shepherds. He is articulating the fundamental discipline that distinguishes the business that survives from the business that doesn't. The business that survives is the one whose owner knows exactly what is happening at any given moment. The cash flow, the customer relationships, the operational health, the market position. The owner who can see problems before they become crises. The owner who tends the business with the same attentiveness that a shepherd gives to animals whose health determines the household's survival. That discipline, combined with operating in a category of business that serves an enduring human need, is the survival formula. Write in the comments, I'm building on ground that doesn't move. Because that is exactly what we're talking about. Ground that has not moved in 3,000 years and shows no evidence of moving now. The first business, food production and direct food sales. Genesis 41, 47, 49. During the 7 years of abundance, the land produced plentifully. Joseph collected all the food produced in those 7 years of abundance in Egypt and stored it in the cities. Joseph did not invent food as a business. He understood something that every generation in every country on every continent has rediscovered. People always eat, in prosperity, in famine, in war, in plague, in political chaos, in economic collapse. The demand never goes to zero. It shifts. People eat differently, more simply, more locally, more carefully, but it never disappears. The food business has survived every crisis in the Bible because it serves the most inelastic human need in existence. And in America today, the food business is undergoing a structural shift that is creating enormous opportunity for producers and sellers who understand it. The USDA reports that direct-to-consumer food sales, farmers markets, CSA subscriptions, farm stands, online farm sales, food hubs have grown by over 30% since 2019. The growth is driven by consumer demand for food whose origin is known, whose production is understood, and whose producer has a face and a name. The industrialized food supply chain that dominated American food distribution for 50 years is losing ground to a more direct model, and the producers capturing that shift are not large agricultural corporations. They are small operators with specific products, specific stories, and specific customer relationships. The cottage food industry in the United States is now a legitimate economic sector. In most states, home kitchen food businesses can generate $50,000 to $75,000 in annual revenue without commercial licensing, selling baked goods, preserved foods, dry mixes, and specialty food items directly to consumers at farmers markets, online, and through direct delivery. In Vermont, a man named Tom had been farming 12 acres of mixed vegetables for 19 years, selling at farmers markets and through a small CSA with 65 member households. When the pandemic hit, and every restaurant that had been buying his produce shut down, his direct-to-consumer business absorbed the loss. The families who had been buying from him for years increased their CSA memberships. While every restaurant supplier he knew was scrambling, Tom's business had its best year on record, not because he was lucky, because he had built a direct relationship business in a category that never loses demand. The instruction map. First step, identify what you can produce with genuine quality, baked goods, preserved foods, specialty produce, eggs, honey, meat, dairy, fermented product, and research your state's cottage food laws to understand the regulatory framework before spending $1 on equipment. Second step, build a pre-order system before you build capacity. Sell before you produce. 10 confirmed orders before a single item is made means zero waste and verified demand. Third step, price for what the market will bear in the direct-to-consumer channel, not for the wholesale market. Direct food sales at farmers markets and online command retail pricing, not wholesale pricing. The margin difference is significant. Fourth step, build customer relationships as the primary asset of the business. In direct food sales, the customer who orders every week for 10 years is worth far more than 100 single transactions. The relationship is the moat. Fifth step, diversify your sales channels gradually. Farmers market on Saturday. CSA subscription through the website. Local restaurant account midweek. Direct delivery in your neighborhood on Fridays. No single channel closure should threaten the entire business. The second business, skilled trade and construction. Nehemiah 2:17-18. Then I said to them, you see the trouble we are in. Jerusalem lies in ruins, and its gates have been burned with fire. Come, let us rebuild. Nehemiah rebuilt Jerusalem's wall in 52 days. The mechanism was skilled people doing skilled work with organized leadership. And the principle his story demonstrates is one of the most durable economic truths in human history. The physical environment always deteriorates. It always needs to be built, repaired, improved, maintained. That need has survived every crisis the Bible records because it is structural to the human condition. You cannot eat, sleep, or work without shelter. You cannot transport goods without infrastructure. You cannot store harvests without buildings. The skilled trade is recession-resistant, not because it is immune to economic cycles, but because the underlying need it serves never goes away. In the United States right now, the skilled trades are in a historic deficit condition. The National Center for Education Statistics estimates a shortage of approximately 430,000 construction workers over the next decade. The median annual wage for plumbers in the United States is currently $61,000, with master plumbers in high-demand markets earning well above $100,000. Electricians, HVAC technicians, and welders face similarly strong demand with similarly strong compensation. And the self-employed tradesperson, the licensed contractor running their own operation in a market where quality, reliability, and communication are genuinely scarce, operates in one of the most favorable, competitive environments in American economic history. In Phoenix, a plumber named Marcus had worked for a regional plumbing company for 9 years. He went independent at 34. His first year running his own business, he earned 41% more than his final year as an employee, while working fewer total hours, simply because he captured the full value of his labor rather than a percentage of it. He has not run a job posting since his first year in business. His calendar is booked by referral. When the 2008 financial crisis hit, Nehemiah's response was not to wait for better conditions. It was to build. The instruction map. First step. Get licensed in your state for the trade you practice if you are not already. Licensing is the gateway to the largest, most lucrative clients, commercial accounts, property management companies, new construction projects that unlicensed operators cannot access. Second step, specialize within the trade. The electrician who installs EV charging stations charges rates that the generalist electrician cannot justify. The plumber who specializes in trenchless pipe replacement serves a market that has almost no competition in most geographic areas. Third step, build your referral network before you need your marketing budget. Every satisfied customer in the trades has an average of 3 to 5 referrals to give if asked. Build the ask into your follow-up process. Fourth step, hire your first employee before you are overwhelmed. The solo tradesperson hits their income ceiling the day they cannot add more hours. The first hire is what breaks that ceiling. Fifth step, price for what the licensed, specialized, reliable version of your trade commands, not for what makes you feel comfortable charging. The market is paying premium rates for quality and reliability in every skilled trade. Charge what the premium version of your work is worth. The third business, textiles, apparel, and handmade goods. Proverbs 31:13. She selects wool and flax and works with eager hands. Verse 24. She makes linen garments and sells them, and supplies the merchants with sashes. The woman of Proverbs 31 operated a vertically integrated production and commerce business. She sourced her materials. She manufactured. She sold directly to consumers. She also supplied wholesale to merchants who distributed to additional markets. That business model has survived every crisis in human history, because clothing and handmade goods serve two of the most persistent human needs: protection from the elements and the expression of identity and belonging. People stop buying luxury goods in a crisis. They don't stop needing clothing, and they increasingly seek out the handmade, the locally produced, the authentically crafted, particularly in economic environments where mass production has produced abundance without meaning. In the United States, the maker economy has become a significant economic category. Etsy's 2023 annual report documented $13.2 billion in annual gross merchandise sales, the vast majority generated by individual makers and small craft businesses. The fastest growing categories are handmade goods, custom items, and vintage products that the mass market cannot replicate. The small batch specialty apparel brand, the custom leather goods maker, the hand-thrown ceramics studio, the artisanal textile business, the print-on-demand custom apparel operation. Each of these is a modern expression of the exact business the woman of Proverbs 31 operated, producing something made with skilled hands and distributing it through every channel available. In Asheville, North Carolina, a woman named Rebecca had been weaving on a floor loom as a hobby for 11 years. She made blankets, wall hangings, and table runners for her own home and as gifts. A friend convinced her to list a few pieces on Etsy. Her first year of selling generated just over $29,000. Her second year, after she raised her prices to reflect actual market value and built a small Instagram following that drove traffic to her shop, she crossed $61,000. She is weaving the same things she was weaving before. She is doing it with the same loom she has owned for a decade. The only thing that changed was where she made the work available. The instruction map. First step, identify the specific handmade product category that represents the intersection of your genuine skill, your authentic enthusiasm, and real documented market demand. Do not guess at market demand. Look at Etsy search volume. Look at what is selling in comparable categories. Look at the price points comparable items command. Second step, price for what the handmade version of your product category commands, not for the mass market equivalent. Handmade goods sold through direct channels command premiums of 2x to 5x over factory equivalents in most categories. The customer who buys handmade is not shopping for the cheapest version. They are paying for what the handmade version represents. Third step, build the story as deliberately as you build the product. In the maker economy, provenance matters. The customer who buys your blanket wants to know who wove it, where the fiber came from, what tradition it connects to. The story is part of the product. Fourth step, diversify your channels between direct sales, Etsy, your own website, local markets, and wholesale to retailers and interior designers who serve clients who want exactly what you make. Fifth step, document your production processes so that the business can scale beyond your single pair of hands when demand warrants it. The fourth business, trade, distribution, and commerce genesis. 37:28. So when the Midianite merchants came by, his brothers pulled Joseph up out of the cistern and sold him to the Ishmaelites for 20 shekels of silver. The Midianites did not produce Joseph. They did not produce the silver. They connected a seller with a buyer, facilitated a transaction, and earned for the connection. That is trade. That is distribution. That is commerce. And it is one of the most resilient business models in human history because it survives by being necessary to every other business that exists. As long as there are producers who cannot efficiently reach buyers and buyers who cannot efficiently locate producers, there is a role and a reward for the person who bridges the gap. In the modern American economy, this bridge-building function has expanded into extraordinary variety. Amazon FBA sellers who identify underserved product demand and source inventory to fulfill it, the Midianite route applied to consumer goods at scale. Affiliate marketers who connect audiences with products they genuinely recommend, earning commission for the introduction without touching the product. Freelance sourcing agents who help businesses navigate supplier relationships, earning a fee for expertise and connections the client doesn't have. Business brokers who connect sellers of small businesses with qualified buyers, earning a commission on the transaction value. Real estate wholesalers who identify distressed properties, negotiate with sellers, and assign contracts to investors, earning an assignment fee for the connection. Freight brokers who connect shippers with carriers, an industry that generates over $80 billion annually in the United States, according to the Transportation Intermediaries Association. In each case, the business model requires no production capacity, no inventory, no manufacturing infrastructure. It requires knowledge of a market, relationships within it, and the ability to identify and close the gap between supply and demand. In Denver, a woman named Sarah had spent 11 years as a purchasing manager for a mid-sized manufacturing company. She knew the supplier landscape for industrial components at a level that few outside the industry could match. When she was laid off, she launched an independent sourcing consultancy, helping small manufacturers find reliable suppliers for specific components they were struggling to source. She charged a monthly retainer plus a percentage of documented cost savings. In her first full year, she had 7 retainer clients and earned more than she had at her highest corporate salary. She did not build a factory. She built a relationship business in a gap that her expertise allowed her to see and serve. The instruction map. First step, identify the market where you have insider knowledge, the market where you understand the supply side and the demand side well enough to see the gap between them clearly. Second step, structure your first deals on a commission or success fee basis. The trade business, with no upfront risk to the parties it connects, is the easiest first deal to close. You earn when the transaction closes, not before. Third step, systematically build toward recurring commission structures rather than one-time transaction fees. The supplier relationship that generates a commission every time a regular buyer reorders is worth exponentially more than the single transaction introduction. Fourth step, formalize the business infrastructure when the volume justifies it. An LLC, a business bank account, a simple contract template, and proper invoicing software are the infrastructure of a scalable trade business. Fifth step, expand the relationship network deliberately. In trade and distribution, the network is the business. The person who knows more suppliers and more buyers than anyone else in a specific category is the person who earns the most from connecting them. The fifth business, healthcare, elder care, and personal services. Luke 10:34. He went to him and bandaged his wounds, pouring on oil and wine. Then he put the man on his own donkey, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. The Good Samaritan did not just have compassion. He had competence. He had the resources and the knowledge to provide actual medical care. He arranged logistics. He made financial commitments to ensure ongoing care. He provided a skilled, organized, complete service, not a gesture, a functional intervention, and the category of business he exemplified, care of the physical, medical, and daily living needs of people who cannot fully care for themselves, is one of the most recession-resistant and fastest-growing categories in the American economy. Here is the structural data that explains why. The U.S. Census Bureau projects that by 2030, all baby boomers will be over 65 years of age, making approximately 73 million American seniors. The Bureau of Labor Statistics projects that home health aide positions will grow by 22% through 2032, significantly faster than any other occupational category. The demand for personal care, medical support, and daily living assistance is a demographic certainty. And the gap between the demand for quality elder care and the supply of trusted, skilled, reliable care providers is one of the most significant unmet needs in the American economy. The person who builds a reputation for excellent care in their church community, their professional network, their neighborhood, has a business that fills by word of mouth before they spend a dollar on marketing. In Atlanta, a woman named Patricia had cared for her own mother through a 7-year battle with Parkinson's disease. When her mother passed, she realized she had developed a level of competence in memory care, medication management, physical assistance, and family
But the fever
communication that
spreads.
most professional
Is it enough?
caregivers spend years developing. She became a licensed home health aide and then a certified nursing assistant. She worked for an agency for 2 years, building additional skills and client management experience. She went independent. Within 14 months, she had 11 private clients, all generated by referral from families who had known her mother's family or her church community. She earns significantly more per hour than the agency paid her. She chooses her own clients and her own schedule. The Good Samaritan had the competence to serve. Patricia had the competence to serve. The principle is the same. The instruction map. First step, assess honestly whether the gift of care is genuinely yours. This business requires patience, emotional endurance, and a genuine orientation towards service that not everyone has. But for those who have it, it is both a vocation and a significantly underserved market. Second step, get the appropriate state licensing. Home health aid certification, CNA licensure, specialized dementia care training. These credentials increase your credibility with families, protect you legally, and justify significantly higher compensation rates. Third step, build a referral system from your first client relationship. The care business grows through trust, and trust travels by personal recommendation faster than through any advertising channel. Fourth step, define clear service boundaries in writing from day one. What you do, what you do not do, hours, rates, what constitutes an emergency. The families you serve are often in stressful situations. Clarity from the beginning prevents the misunderstandings that damage even well-intentioned care relationships. Fifth step, consider the structural opportunity of building a care network, matching other qualified caregivers with families in your area, and earning an agency fee for the match. This is the transition from direct care provider to care business operator. The same transition from job to business that applies in every category. The sixth business, teaching, coaching, and knowledge transfer. Proverbs 22:29. Do you see someone skilled in their work? They will serve before kings. They will not serve before officials of low rank. The skilled person stands before kings, not because of their credentials, not because of their title, because of the genuine mastery they have developed, and the access that mastery gives them to those who need it. The knowledge transfer business has survived every biblical crisis because the only asset that survives every physical catastrophe completely intact is what a person knows. You can lose property in a war. You can lose savings in a financial crisis. You can lose physical assets in a fire. You cannot lose what you know. And the person who has developed genuine mastery in a trade, a craft, a professional domain, a specific life experience, has an asset that cannot be confiscated, cannot be devalued, cannot be lost in an economic downturn. The United States online education and coaching market is projected to reach $166 billion by 2026. But it is not primarily growing through institutional education. It is growing through individual practitioners who have accumulated genuine expertise and decided to teach it at scale. The online course, the private coaching practice, the group mastermind, the corporate training contract, the speaking engagement, the paid workshop. Each of these is a different delivery mechanism for the same core economic transaction. Expertise transferred in exchange for compensation. In Minneapolis, an industrial engineer named Kevin had spent 15 years solving manufacturing efficiency problems. He had a specific methodology for identifying and eliminating bottlenecks in production processes that he had refined through dozens of client engagements. He started a coaching practice for small manufacturing company owners. People who were too small to afford a full-time industrial engineer, but who had the exact problems Kevin specialized in solving. He charged $2,500 per month for a 6-month engagement. In his first 18 months of independent practice, he had 14 clients at various stages of their engagement. He billed more in year 1 than he had earned in any full year of corporate employment. The instruction map. First step. Precisely identify the domain where your mastery is most developed and most differentiable. Not what you know a lot about, what you know better than most people who do what you do, in a way that produces specific, documentable outcomes for the people you serve. Second step, define the outcome your client or student achieves, not the process you deliver. Clients and students pay for outcomes, not for hours. Kevin's clients didn't pay for engineering analysis. They paid for production efficiency that reduced costs and increased throughput. Third step, start with high-touch delivery before productizing. One-on-one coaching before a group program, a live workshop before a recorded course. Direct engagement allows you to learn exactly what your audience needs before you lock it into a fixed format. Fourth step, charge what the outcome is worth. The coaching engagement that saves a client $200,000 in operational costs justifies a very different fee than the session count suggests. Price for value delivered, not for time invested. Fifth step, build testimonials and case studies from day 1. The knowledge transfer business is sold on demonstrated outcomes. The prospect who can see that your methodology produced specific, measurable results for someone who had their exact problem is far more likely to buy than the prospect who is only reading about your expertise. The seventh business, agriculture, gardening, and local food systems. Proverbs 12 and 11. Those who work their land will have abundant food, but those who chase fantasies have no sense. Work the land, tend what is in front of you, and the land produces. This is the most ancient of all biblical business models, and it survived every famine, every conquest, every political collapse in Scripture, because the person who controls the production of food controls the most essential resource that exists. Modern American agriculture is not accessible to most people. Commodity farming requires scale that is effectively beyond reach for the individual family or small investor. But local food production, the market garden, the small-scale specialty farm, the urban micro-farm, the community-supported agricultural operation is exactly the opposite. The average successful market garden producing for direct sale at farmers markets generates between $30,000 and $120,000 in annual revenue from 1 to 3 acres of land, according to USDA Economic Research Service data. The key differentiator is direct sale, capturing the full retail value of production rather than the wholesale price that commodity production delivers. The regenerative agriculture and specialty food movement in America is driven by consumers who are willing to pay premium prices for food they trust from producers they know. In Kansas City, a couple named Dave and Jennifer converted a quarter-acre suburban lot into a productive market garden. They grew high-value specialty crops, microgreens, specialty herbs, heirloom tomatoes, edible flowers, and sold directly to 4 farm-to-table restaurants and a small farmer's market stand. In their second year of production, the quarter acre generated $34,000 in annual revenue. It was not their primary income. It was a second income from land they already owned, tended on weekends and early mornings, that now produces more per square foot than almost any other use they could have made of it. The instruction map. First step, assess what land you have access to. Your own property, a lease arrangement, a community garden plot, a partnership with a landowner who has underutilized agricultural land. Second step, identify the highest value crops for direct sale in your specific local market. Microgreens, specialty mushrooms, heirloom vegetables, specialty herbs, cut flowers, and honey typically generate the highest revenue per square foot in the direct-to-consumer channel.
The farmer and
Third
the
step,
merchant sealed their first
build
agreement,
your first
bringing
sale
prosperity
relationship
to the
before you
market
plant your
square.
first crop. Know who is going to buy what you produce before you produce it. Restaurants, farmers market spots, CSA wait lists. Establish the demand side before you commit to the supply side. Fourth step, start with one or two specialty crops that you can master before diversifying. The market gardener who grows 20 things adequately is typically less profitable than the one who grows 3 things with genuine excellence and reliable supply. Fifth step, price for the direct-to-consumer premium. Specialty produce sold directly to restaurants and at farmers markets commands 3x to 5x the commodity wholesale price. Your production economics should reflect that premium from the first sale. The eighth business, real estate and property development. Proverbs 31:16. She considers a field and buys it. Out of her earnings, she plants a vineyard. This principle has appeared throughout the series, and it appears here again because real estate is the single business model that appears most consistently across the widest range of biblical economic contexts. Joseph in Egypt managed national land resources. Boaz in Bethlehem operated agricultural land. The woman of Proverbs 31 acquired and developed property. Abraham purchased land for a fair price and established legal ownership with clear documentation. Real estate, the ownership, development, and management of land and the buildings on it, has survived every crisis the Bible records because it serves the needs that never go away. The need for shelter, the need for agricultural land, the need for commercial space, the need for industrial facility. In the United States, residential real estate has delivered an average annualized total return of approximately 5.4% over the past 30 years, according to the Federal Reserve's flow of funds data. Commercial real estate REITs have historically delivered 9% to 12% annually, including dividend income. These returns have been generated through oil price shocks, multiple recessions, a global financial crisis, a pandemic, and the most rapid interest rate increase cycle in 40 years. The principle is not that real estate always goes up in the short term. It is that property serving real human needs delivers real long-term returns because the underlying demand never permanently disappears. In Houston, a teacher named Marcus had purchased a modest duplex 12 years ago with an FHA loan, 3.5% down, on a teacher's salary. He lived in one unit. He rented the other. The rental income covered most of his mortgage payment. He refinanced and pulled equity to purchase a second duplex 4 years later, then a third small multifamily 6 years ago. Today, Marcus owns 12 rental units, generating approximately $8,400 per month in gross rental income. He still teaches because he loves it, not because he has to. He started with a duplex, on a teacher's salary, with an FHA loan. The instruction map. First step, educate yourself on the actual mechanics of real estate acquisition, loan products, property analysis, market research, property management basics, before committing any capital. Biggerpockets.com is the most comprehensive free educational resource for U.S. real estate investors and is the appropriate starting point. Second step, house hack your first property if possible. Purchase a small multifamily, duplex, triplex, or fourplex with an FHA loan at a low down payment, live in one unit, and rent the others. Let the rental income offset your housing cost. This is the most capital-efficient way to enter real estate investing in the current American market. Third step, analyze every potential acquisition with actual numbers, not optimism. Gross rental income minus vacancy allowance minus operating expenses minus debt service equals net operating income. Run the numbers honestly before you make an offer. Fourth step, build toward cash-flowing properties in your local market before pursuing properties in distant markets. The property you can personally oversee and manage, or manage through a local property manager, is lower risk and easier to understand than a property in a market you do not know. Fifth step, reinvest cash flow and equity growth into the next acquisition on a systematic, intentional schedule. The woman of Proverbs 31 planted the vineyard from the earnings of her hands. The real estate portfolio that compounds is the one where income is systematically reinvested into expansion, not absorbed into lifestyle. The ninth business, digital content, online education, and packaged knowledge. Habakkuk 2.2. Write down the revelation and make it plain on tablets so that a herald may run with it. I've referenced this verse in every video in this series because it is the oldest and clearest articulation of what the digital content economy is, and because it was written approximately 600 years before Christ, which means it is a very old blueprint for a very new economy. Write it down. Make it plain, make it transmissible. The digital content business, YouTube channels, podcasts, newsletters, online courses, digital products, membership communities, is the most recently emerged of the 9 business categories on this list. And it is simultaneously the fastest growing. Kajabi creators have collectively earned over $6 billion. Substack hosts over 3 million paid subscriptions. YouTube has more than 2 million creator partners earning from the platform. The online learning market is projected to exceed $300 billion globally by 2026. But this business category is not new in its economic structure. It is new in its delivery mechanism. The structure, creating a piece of knowledge content once and making it accessible to many people over time, earning with each access, is as old as the printing press. And before the printing press, it was as old as the scribe who copied a scroll that was then shared across a region. Solomon wrote Proverbs. His wisdom has been generating value for 3,000 years. Habakkuk wrote his prophecy. The instruction to write it on tablets so that the herald could run with it is still in print in a book that sells tens of millions of copies annually. The digital content business is simply the most accessible, most global, most capital-efficient implementation of a model that the Bible articulated in the 7th century BC. And it has survived every crisis of the modern era. The 2008 financial crisis accelerated the creator economy as people who lost jobs started producing content about navigating the collapse. COVID accelerated it again as people who could not leave their homes started creating and consuming digital content at unprecedented rates. The crisis did not kill this category. It grew it. In Nashville, a woman named Jennifer had been a licensed marriage and family therapist for 16 years. She had watched clients arrive at her practice, having made decisions that significantly escalated their emotional and relational crises. Decisions that they might have made differently with access to some basic psychoeducational content before the situation became acute. She started a YouTube channel specifically designed to provide that pre-crisis psychoeducation. Accessible, research-grounded, practically applicable content about relationships, communication, conflict, and emotional regulation. She uploaded 1 video per week. For 11 months, the channel grew slowly. In month 12, a video she had published 4 months earlier began algorithmic distribution. In the following 18 months, the channel grew to 340,000 subscribers. Today, her channel generates approximately $8,500 per month in ad revenue. She has a digital course that generates an additional $6,200 per month in rolling enrollments. Her private practice has a 12-month wait list. She did not change her expertise. She wrote it down and let the herald run. The instruction map. First step, define the specific intersection of your expertise and an existing searchable audience need. The more precisely you can describe both. Retirement planning for public school teachers in states with pension systems rather than retirement planning. The faster you will find the audience that was waiting for exactly you. Second step, choose one platform, one format, and one publication cadence, and commit to it for 12 months before making any changes. The most consistent destroyer of early-stage content businesses is platform hopping, format experimentation, and inconsistent cadence. Pick one. Stay. Third step. Build your email list from your first published piece. The platform can change its algorithm. Your email list can't not be taken from you. Every piece of content you create should have a mechanism to invite the reader or viewer to join a list that you own. Fourth step, design a monetized product before your audience is large enough to buy it. Know what you will sell when the audience arrives. The creator who reaches 10,000 subscribers without a product ready to sell loses the inflection point. The one who has the product waiting converts the audience into revenue the day the traction arrives. Fifth step, treat the content catalog as a long-term capital asset because it is. A well-made piece of educational content on an enduring topic can generate income for 5 to 7 years. Every piece you publish is infrastructure. Every piece is a working asset. Build it with the same intentionality you would bring to a physical property acquisition. Write it down. Let the herald run. 9 businesses, 9 categories that have survived every crisis the Bible records. And I want you to notice what all 9 have in common. None of them depend on a specific political party being in power. None of them depend on a specific interest rate environment. None of them depend on a specific technology platform continuing to operate. None of them depend on a global supply chain functioning without disruption. All 9 of them serve needs that are structural to human existence. The need for food, for shelter, for skilled work on the physical environment, for beautiful and useful handmade goods, for commerce connecting supply with demand, for care of the vulnerable, for knowledge transfer from those who know to those who need to know, for land that produces, for wisdom that runs on tablets. These needs have survived empires. They have survived famines. They have survived wars, plagues, economic collapses, and political reorganizations. They will survive whatever comes next. Proverbs 27:23 does not tell you to predict the future. It tells you to know the condition of your flock, to understand what you have built, to tend it with care, to give careful attention to the assets in your hands, because riches do not endure forever, and a crown is not secure for all generations. But the person who builds in a category that serves an enduring human need, and who tends that business with the diligence of a shepherd who knows exactly what is in their care, that person has built on ground that does not move. Start with 1. Build it well. Tend it consistently. The 9 have been available the entire time. If this gave you something to work with, share it with someone who has been praying for direction, a friend who needs a starting point, a family member who has been looking for the right category to build in. One share might be the beginning of something significant. Let me pray over you. Father, thank you for the record of what has survived, For the evidence that certain categories of human endeavor have endured through every crisis that history has produced because they serve needs that you embedded in the human condition. Thank you that the blueprint was not withheld, that it is in a book that anyone can read, that it is available to anyone willing to read it with eyes of application rather than eyes of devotion alone. Speak to every person watching this, to the one who has been waiting for the right category to build in. May these 9 be the answer to the prayer they have been praying. To the one who is already building in one of these categories, affirm them, encourage them. Let them know that the ground they are on has been proven by 3,000 years of human history. To the one who is afraid to start, meet them in the fear, not to remove it, but to walk them through it. Because the wall of Jerusalem was rebuilt in 52 days by people who were afraid the whole time. They built anyway. May the businesses built from this video outlast their builders. May the inheritance they leave reach the children's children. In Jesus' name, amen. Write in the comments, I'm building on ground that doesn't move. Because that is the declaration of a person who has decided that the blueprint in their Bible is not just for reading, it is for building. And these 9 categories have been waiting.